Museums are some of the best places to learn about historical objects. Museums can specialize in different topics and explain multiple areas and locations worldwide. Museums exist to help us view the past through a different lens. But what happens when the items on the display are no longer ethical to be held by a museum? My name is Samuel Burke, and this is Laker News. Today on Laker News, we will discuss the wrongful and unethical usage of bones and historical objects within the Penn State Museum. Many people know that most National Museum's objects were not collected ethically or humanely. Theft has permeated its way through many of our museum's history. However, what is interesting is that this theft and wrongful ownership has not stopped in the 21st century. In recent years, there has been more of a push for these objects and remains to be returned to the rightful owners. For example, the Native American Graves Protection and Reparations Act has assisted 29 tribes retrieve 266 remains from the Penn State Museum. Unfortunately, many museums and governments have refused to return stolen objects and remains. It has been discovered that the Penn State Museum has approximately over 1,300 unethically sourced bones, most of which come from the collection made by Dr. Samuel Morton. Dr. Morton claimed that by collecting skulls, he would be able to prove that Caucasian people were the superior race. He found and collected skulls through various means. For example, many of the skulls were taken from cemeteries of poor and enslaved people. Some of the skulls have been sourced from grave robbers. It has been discovered that Penn State Museum has approximately over 1,300 unethically sourced bones, most of which come from the collection made by Dr. Samuel Morton. Dr. Morton claimed that by collecting skulls, he would be able to prove that the Caucasian people were a superior race. Dr. Morton claimed that, quote, recent discoveries in Egypt has shown beyond all question that Caucasian and Negro races were perfectly distinct in Egypt 3,000 years ago, just as they are now. He asserted that the alteration of racial traits by external causes was a physical impossibility. Dr. Morton's research and collection of stolen bones remain on display from 1966 to 2021. The bones in the collection had also been used for other research at universities around North America from 2008 to 2018. Penn State Museum is now in the process of paying proper reparations for the victims and communities affected. This situation, unfortunately, is not the only example of Penn State Museum supporting the unethical collection and use of human remains. In 1985, the police found themselves in a standoff in West Philadelphia with the Black liberation group MOVE. The decision was made for the police to bomb the neighborhood. 6 adults and 5 children were killed. 2 of the children, Delisha and Katricia Africa, had their remains sent off to be identified by the Penn State anthropologist. The remains of the 2 girls were then taken by Alan Mann, who had then an student assistant, Jeanette Monge, work with him. It was then decided that Monge would take the remains with her to her new job to continue trying to identify them. For 36 years, the remains of Delisha and Katricia Africa were kept in a cardboard box and moved across the states by Monge. She used them for her classes to teach video lessons for her online course for Princeton University, all the while hiding the fact that she should not have had those remains. When she was caught, she initially declined to return them because she believed she was entitled to do more scientific research. It wasn't until students began to call her out on still having the remains that the school and the museum decided to step in and take the bones from her. Let it be known that this anthropologist is still an employee of Penn State Museum. While she was removed from her teaching position and demoted within the museum, they chose to let her stay on staff. Unfortunately, the situation is still ongoing as Monge has now decided to sue the students and UPenn for defamation for publishing articles about her actions. These stories tell us something we should all keep in mind. Repeatedly, our academic institutions have allowed and continue to allow minorities and oppressed groups to be taken advantage of. We as citizens should never forget that there are people who suffered in their lives and then weren't allowed to rest after their death because in life they were taken advantage of by racist academic institutions. I'm Samuel Burke, and this has been Laker News. Anchor up.